We're fighting for our right to live, to exist. And should we win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC betting show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the prediction show for UFC 239, Jon Jones versus Thiago Santos. We're going to talk about 2 free plays that we have, as well as we're going to talk about the main event very briefly, because with the odds and where things are going, I don't think I really want to dive into that one too much. But we will talk about 2 free plays. Before we do not forget to subscribe, like, click the bell icon, get involved in the channel. Always appreciate everybody who comments down below. Let me know what you guys are betting. Let me know if you guys are agreeing with my 2 free plays. Who do you got? What are some other prop bets that you maybe like? Let me know down below, and always appreciate a thumbs up as well. So the first thing that we're going to talk about here is our free play. Our free play is on the co-main event of the evening between Amanda Nunes and Holly Holm. So this is to give you the quick line, it's minus 330 for Amanda Nunes, and it's Holly Holm is plus 250. You've got Nunes, who's 17-4, and you got Holly Holm, who's 12-4. So looking at this fight here and breaking it all down, I'm definitely hearing some people that are taking some of that dog money here on Holly, and some people are very, for sure on Nunes. I'd like to go over some of the plays that are going to be making money, of course. We also want to talk a little bit more about some of the featured bouts, but this one here I do like. Now, I talked a lot about Francis Ngannou last week. I did parlay and bet him straight Ngannou with this play here we're about to talk about, so let's get into it. First thing we're going to talk about here is we will talk about Amanda Nunes. Now, Amanda Nunes, she's a monster, 2-division champion. She's really dominating the female mixed martial arts as a whole, and she's known for tremendous power. And the thing that I like about her a lot is that she utilizes a lot of her tools. Although she didn't really need to overall against Cyborg, but she's really well-rounded. She's able to move forward. And a lot of people look at her and they kind of say that, she's, bulldozer. She goes forward. She just goes in there and she's throwing the big shots. She is so calculated, and one of the subscribers, we were talking on Twitter before, that they actually have that detail, I think is what it's called, and you got Dino Cormier, who's going to be breaking down that fight, and breaking down, or the host, I guess, on detail, and he was breaking down Nunes versus Tate, and how it looked like Nunes really just went forward and just was throwing bombs. And in reality, you saw the calculatedness of her, how she was really fading some of those shots, moving in, backing back up, waiting for the right spots. It was really interesting to see some of that breakdown. I did not see all of it, but to watch the way that it is, you really see how Amanda Nunes really is technically sound as well. So, going back very quickly, this is the 4th of July edition here, so we're going to run a little bit quicker here. Against Valentina Shevchenko, that was 3 fights ago. She beat Valentina earlier on in her career, fought here. This was a tough fight, and I really hope that they do fight again, because Shevchenko is an animal. Her counter-striking, her power, her kicks are unbelievable. Obviously, Jessica I knows that very, very well. But, she put up a great fight here. It was a split decision, a tough fight. But she went out there and she got the job done. Nunes is tough. She showed a lot of grit in that fight. That was her toughest fight, I think, to date within the UFC. And she looked great in that spot. Now going over to Raquel Pennington. This was an interesting fight because Raquel was her friend, or is her friend. And, they're both, both of the couples, they're both MMA couples, and you've seen them a lot where they're hanging out together, they get along. So this was a fight here that even though she went into that fight, and Raquel ended up getting to the 5th round, which it shouldn't have even gone to the 5th round, but you saw how fantastic her hand speed is. You saw that aggressive style when she walks the opponent down, and then the fact that she uses her range. Now, in this fight here against Pennington, you saw the fact that when she doesn't just, I mean, she can, when she's in tight and works some quick combinations, but her punch is so long and she fully extends her body and still has the power behind it. A lot of people aren't able to really do that. They're not able to really, even if they do that, you're losing a lot of power in the transition between when you're building up the momentum and when you're releasing it for the punch. And she is, I don't even know how she does it. It's really sensational how she does it. So you saw a lot of that there against Pennington. She dominated there. I think she let off the gas a little bit on Pennington in a couple spots, but then ended up putting the stamp on it when they kept letting the fight go, which it shouldn't even have happened. And then against Cris Cyborg. Now, Cris Cyborg, coming into that fight, she was a monster. She was looking at as an unbeatable kind of figure. She was a big favorite. I did take Nunes in that fight pretty heavily. She was a plus 250. I had Nunes. But that fight there, you saw that she just went in there and she knew. I mean, it was one of those situations where, I mean, you saw within that first exchange, she didn't even wait. She just must have saw something. And I feel like it was it's something that she's not going to do in this fight. I don't really see her going into this fight and just bulldozing down or really she's going to have the pressure. That's what she likes to do. She likes the pressure, but I don't see her doing that to home. I think here against Cyborg, she's slower. She doesn't have the ability that Nunes has, and she went in there and she was just throwing, they both were, but she was just throwing bombs, and she did want that stamp on that fight to be like, you know what, she's one of the greatest of all time, I'm knocking her out in the first round. And to have that kind of confidence going up against Cris Cyborg was tremendous for him. The way she would get that first round knockout, so be it, she was able to get the job done. So quickly going over those, and then talking about Holly Holm now. Holly Holm over her last 3 fights, Batch Kohea, she ended up beating, and that was a fight that was kind of a stalemate for a little while. She wasn't really, there really wasn't just much happening. She was, I felt very timid. And this is actually Holly Holm after coming off of the title. She lost 3 straight, and then she fought Kohea. So she had a bit of a skid there, but she was able to bounce back against Kohea to get that knockout in the 3rd round. It was a pretty crazy head kick, and then finish it with the strike. She went up against Cris Cyborg now. MMA math here tells us a little bit. You've got Nunes, who goes out there and dominated, and you've got Holly Holm, who I thought she fought well. I mean, it was a lot more competitive. I think the line was pretty crazy too in that fight. That Holmes was Holly Holm was a huge underdog, but she stuck to the basics. She went out there, she stuck to the basics. She moved forward when she needed to. She worked her combinations. Holly is a great counter striker, elite kickboxing, so she was able to really do some nice things in there. But I think a lot of that had to do with how worried, and maybe scared may not be the word, but how much she was nervous about the big shot coming from Cyborg. I think that she was a little bit more overwhelmed than some of these other opponents, and she just wasn't pulling the trigger. She wasn't just letting loose. She ended up losing the decision there, but I thought she did some nice things in that spot, but you could see that she just was a little not pulling the trigger, where I think in some spots, maybe a lesser opponent, she would have, and she was more worried about getting knocked out, which is something I think you could take going into this fight against Nunes. And then against Megan Anderson. Now Anderson, this was her debut. She had some height behind her, long, lanky, looked pretty good, known for a decent ground game, but really some nice striking and a nice mix. Now, this was a fight where I think that Anderson was completely blindsided for the fact that Holm, who is completely known for stand-up striking and keeping it standing, she went in there and tried to just ground and pound this fight, for over the 3 rounds. And she went out there and she did that. And I think it really threw off what Anderson was looking to do. I think that she was most of it. Anderson's working on her striking. She thinks it was going to be a stand-up bout. She's worried about, some of the combinations maybe that Holly Holm has. And in this position, she took her down consistently, and there was nothing that Anderson did. It was an easy decision for Holly Holm. So again, quickly running those down, just a couple quick thoughts of what I thought on those fights. Breaking down the way that I look, the big thing for me here when I'm looking at tape with both of them is how simplistic Holly Holm and her striking is. She does not really do much creative striking. She did have a question mark kick against Kohea, which dropped her, and then she finished her. But a lot of her strikes are, I feel, the 1-2 from the outside, or maybe she throws 4 of them moving forward, or maybe she'll throw the leg kick, and then she'll throw a body kick, and then it's not much of, she moves, I think she has a lot of footwork, but a lot of the times I feel it's a very simplistic striking when she's out there. And you also got to take the fact that Holm is 37. She's 37 years old, Nunes is 31. Now, Holmes does not look like a 37-year-old. I mean, she is ripped, great shape, all of those great things, which has made her a tremendous athlete. Her training and the camp she comes from is great as well. But you put all of that together, and you look at the fact that Holly is also 2-4 out of her last 6. To me, I love Nunes here. I just don't see, I think the minus 330 line is actually, it is a little high, but I just don't see any path to victory for Holly in this fight. I don't really see it, even if she's looking for the takedowns, even if she's looking to go push forward and let me work the ground and pound. I don't even think that works here, because if in that situation, she really needs to kind of let herself be a little vulnerable for, to go reach for those takedowns or shoot for those takedowns. And that's going to be opportunity for Nunes to throw some big shots. So she needs to get through a wall of big bombs for her to be able to do that. Now against Anderson doesn't really throw big shots like that. She's got some nice striking, good technique, but not with any kind of power that you're going to see Nunes have. And I think that you're going to see the timidness of when she fought against Cyborg. I don't think she's going to be able to do very much. I think she's going to be a lot worried about the big shots coming from Nunes, and even the interviews. And I'm very big on watching interviews and really the mindset and the temperament of a fighter. And it's not an end-all be-all, of course. It's not going to be, hey, they're going to say, hey, I'm going to knock you out, and then they knock the guy. I mean, it has nothing to do with that. I think it's more, and it's not even a self-belief, because all of them are confident, all of them think they're going to win. No one's going to say, hey, I don't really think I got a shot here. But I like to hear what they say and how they're acting on certain questioning. And I felt that a lot of it, Holly was almost trying to talk herself into saying that she could win. Like, it wasn't as organic as you're going to hear Nunes talk. Nunes is just like, I'm here to knock it. It's just, I love hearing those kind of things. I love breaking those things down. Again, that's not, you've got to look at the whole picture. You got to look at styles. You got to look at matchups. Who's elevating, who's declining. Where's a spot where another opponent can expose. All these things are going to be part of it. But I like to look at the interviews, and I think the interview was a little bit where Holly just almost seemed worried about this fight than I'm fighting one of the greatest of all time, and I got a chance to really do something special here, and I don't really see that. So for me, I'm taking Nunes as my free play, minus 330, a little high, but I think she goes out there and she puts the stamp on her. Now, the next fight we're going to be talking about is Ben Askren versus Jorge Masvidal. Now, this is another fight here that's very interesting. I think, these two have battled it out verbally. They've been talking a lot of trash, and you know what? I think it's going to be a fight that's, going to be closer, I think, that a lot of people are saying, because vice versa, whoever you think, a lot of people are saying, oh, it's going to be an early knockout, he's not going to be able to stop Masvidal striking, and then you've got, Askren's going to take him down very quickly. So it's an interesting fight. Now you've got Ben Askren, who's 19-0, 1-0 in the UFC. He's minus 240. You've got Masvidal, who's 33-13, and he's plus 195. So you take a look at these guys stylistically. Now, obviously, Ben Askren, elite, top level, elite wrestling. I mean, he is the pinnacle of wrestling as a whole. You put him with pretty much anybody in the UFC, and he's that top level kind of competitor. Now, the thing that you're going to take a look at is what happened in the Robbie Lawler fight. Now, that was his only fight, but boy, was that a terrible matchup for him stylistically, where you've got Robbie Lawler, who has an amazing sprawl, able to stop takedowns, strong guy, great striking, lots of power. That's the kind of guy that I think that really needs to be able to beat somebody like Askren. It was a crazy fight where, Askren was slammed on his head and then looked like he was knocked out and then somehow came to, and then all of a sudden he ended up having Robbie in a bulldog choke, and Robbie looked okay, and then it didn't look okay, and then it was controversy, and then they called it. So a lot of crazy things going on there. But if you take a look at what happened, that was a fight that I think there was a lot to take away from, and just the tenacity and just what that Ben Askren, a lot of people thought that he was over the hill. He's done. He doesn't look like a guy that's going to be, as scary as he is, but he's got unbelievable power in his arms. And if those of you who've seen him, smash two watermelons with his arms and just squeezing them. I mean, he's got a lot of power. He's been in wrestling for an extremely long time. His striking's not going to be there. But against Robbie Lawler, he was able to nullify that with the pressure. Now, of course, again, he got slammed on his head. He almost got knocked out early, but was able to fight back. There's a lot to take away from that just as a whole, whether you're for Askren or you're against him. There's something to take away from, because you could say, look, he's susceptible to being knocked out, taken down. It can happen. And then also, if you like Ben, you're saying, well, look how he came back and was able to get the finish. So there's something definitely to take away from there. Now, you look at Jorge Masvidal. Masvidal, great kickboxing. He's durable. He's got good jiu-jitsu. And his last 3 fights, I think there's a little bit here to take away from, so we'll kind of run down these pretty quickly. Damian Maia was 3 fights ago. Now, this fight, very boring fight. Not really, Maia does what he does. He shoots, looks for the takedowns, tried to swarm me a little bit. Now, we did have Damian Maia last week. It did work out for us. You know what Damian Maia is. He goes in there for the takedowns, those early ones, looks for more control of the fight, and then looks for the finish. And against Masvidal, Masvidal's got a good ground game, so Masvidal's definitely not going to be somebody who's going to be a pushover when it comes to Ben Askren by any means. But you have to get through. It's another thing. You got to get through the snapping kicks that Masvidal has, and as well as his combinations. There's so many great things that Masvidal does when he's standing. Now, this question is what's going to happen when you take him to the ground? Now, the next fight was against Wonderboy Thompson, which was an easy victory for Thompson. And most of it was that Thompson, it was almost like he, I don't even know what the word is, but it just didn't give him enough to work. And a lot of people that talk about Thompson, they do say he's just tough to figure out. His movement, his kicks, his angles, the way that he works the cage. There's a lot of things that multiple people have said. So it's a tough fight to really take away from, to be honest with you. But you can also take away the fact that this was a pure striking fight. So it doesn't really pertain fully to a fight like this, but it's always interesting to watch. What can you take away from it? So ended up being that Thompson did get that victory. And then the most recent one, and we did have Jorge Masvidal to win against Darren Till. This is another stand-up fight. This was another fight where Darren Till's not going to be looking to take you down. And I did like Masvidal and his striking, because I think Till is a little higher than he should be. And actually, it's funny. Recently, they were talking about that Till has said, and even UFC has said, they threw me to Woodley and he was not ready for it. He needed to grow a little bit more. So him to go against Masvidal, great fight. It was a great stylistic matchup fight because they're both going to stand. Masvidal did what he needed to do, landed a big shot. Till landed a big shot early. Masvidal comes back. But again, these are 2 pure strikers going up against him. And now you take a look at Maia. Can you take something away from the Maia fight going into this fight against Askren? And I think absolutely you can. Now, the big part to me here is going to be that pressure from Askren. I think you're going to see that instantly. I think there's not going to be much time at all that you're going to have a guy that's going to that in Askren that's going to really give Masvidal much time. And I think it's going to happen within the first combination that Masvidal throws. He's going to shoot. I think he's going to look to do it instantly. He's not going to really let Masvidal get comfortable. A lot of times Masvidal has been a little bit of a slower starter, besides the Till fight, which was the second round actually. But he's a little bit of a slower starter, and he's not really going out there and going out guns blazing. He kind of takes his time in that first round. And I think here, that's something that Askren is going to be able to take advantage of. I think early he's going to get those takedowns. And then I think it's going to be, I could see this going to a decision. I definitely could see this going to a decision. But if it's two rounds to nothing, Askren's a tough guy to put away, as in if he's just going to be smothering you. So I think the smothering, I think the top control, I think there's a lot of great things that he's going to be able to do when he's pushing forward on Masvidal. I don't think Masvidal's going to have much of an answer. Does he have a puncher's chance? Of course, he's got more than that. He's Masvidal. He's a vet. He's knocked out many guys. He's a guy that's been at the top of the game for a while. He just hasn't hit that pinnacle, but he's always been up there. But I think this is a matchup where it just sets up nicely for Askren. I think Askren's going to be able to go out there and get this victory. I think it's more set up for the fact that Askren gets this victory, and I think he fights Usman for the title. So I think this is a winnable fight for him. I think that the odds at -240, a little high for me as well, but I also like it because I think he's going to go out there and I think he's going to dominate. I think he's going to win. So I'm willing to pay up a little bit on a guy that I believe will get the victory. So I have Ben Askren to defeat Jorge Masvidal, also on UFC 239. So that is my quicker rundown due to 4th of July weekend, due to I got a lot of things to do, due to we're going to drink some beers. So we're going to get this done, knock this out for you. Want to get these plays in. Now, again, I've got a large bet on Nunes. I had a parlay between Nunes and Ngannou, which was nice. Laid up a little bit more money than normal on a parlay to go after these odds, help myself with the parlay side of things. And then we also have Ben Askren to get the victory. So let me know what you guys think down below. Do you guys agree with this? Are you guys looking to take the other money? And real quickly, the main event for me was a stay away. John Jones at minus 700, Thiago Santos at plus 500. The range and the reach and the height, and even when they were standing next to each other, looked so much. They look like different weight classes. Although Santos is a jacked guy, he's pretty big. But I just think that the range, everything is going to be very difficult for Thiago Santos. I'm not willing to pay the 700 because I think this is actually going to be a very entertaining fight. I think that Santos is going to go guns blazing, and if he lands one, that's all he needs. Jones is arguably the best that's ever done it, so it's hard to ever go against him. But for me, it was a stay away. I'm not even parlaying this one, to be honest with you. I'm not even throwing. Normally, I'll throw it in, a bigger favorite that I feel really, really good about in other parlays. Jones should get this victory, but I'm just staying away from it. I want to enjoy it after Askren wins and after Nunes wins. So there you have it. Definitely, again, like, subscribe. Always appreciate the comments down below, and I will see you Sunday at the Bet Review Show. And this is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and I'll see you next time.